I'm here to talk about Capricorn cycles, not as they pertain to individuals and their natal charts, but in a worldly sense, because a lot of my astrological research has been based on observing social trends and not just people's personal transits. So when we look at cycles and transits involving Capricorn, we see a focus on power, authority, environmental concerns, and the distribution of resources. And they also tend to draw attention toward mundane pursuits, political affairs, and the ecology. So our tropical Capricorn season begins at the solstice around December 21st and lasts until around January 19th. In my book, Psychic Self-Defense in the Zodiac, in chapter 18 on astrological cycles and historical events, you can read the section on a few historical events that I've listed under the heading Capricorn Season, A Turn of the Wheel and Currency. Now here's one that I forgot to include, but it's a pretty big deal. That is the creation of the Federal Reserve, which occurred during Capricorn season, specifically on December 23rd, 1913. It was officially signed by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, bringing restructuring of the U.S. Banking Act, and it became effective on November 16, 1914. As the third central banking system in United States history, it was said to be aimed at providing economic stability. According to the history of central banking and the enslavement of humankind, which, by the way, is a highly controversial and banned book, the Federal Reserve Act was vehemently opposed by the Senate, who were threatened into submission and forced to accept the financial fate of the U.S. The vote for this act was unequal, but decided by Woodrow Wilson in no uncertain terms. Following its inception, the U.S. dollar lost 97% of its purchasing power, and the Great Depression soon followed. To quote from this book, the United States Federal Reserve Bank, instead of functioning as the people's banker of the bankers, has operated solely as a private bank for the benefit of private bankers. This statement is obviously contrary to what we've been taught by mainstream sources. I encourage people who are not familiar with this topic to dig in and do a little research of their own, because by now it's become clear to a much larger percentage of the world's population that we have been financially manipulated by gigantic Capricornian superpowers. And the reason why I'm talking about all of this right now, we have a full moon in Capricorn coming up on July 10th at the ominous 18th degree. So what I'm on the lookout for are lots of financial surprises, upgrades, and upheavals, lots of monetary twists and turns to occur within the next few days if they haven't already. Some of these changes involving large-scale finance and positions of authority could be for the better, in that people are taking their power back or they're getting promoted. Adding to the complexity of next week's full moon in Capricorn, Capricorn's ruler, Saturn, is slowing down to go retrograde on the 12th. My guess is that we'll be brushing up on a few of the lessons we've learned over the past few years, back when Pluto was still in Capricorn, and we've had some major full moons in this sign that have been very cataclysmic and stressful, but particularly for those who are not paying attention to what's happening in the economy and instead basing all of their decisions on fear, either excess or just holding on too tightly. So pay attention to the stock market, the Bitcoin, any major legislatures and bills, and just big statements and changes that'll be made around finances. When it comes to major cycles and worldly events, forewarned is forearmed. We best maintain our psychic integrity by preparing ourselves to become more resourceful and less dependent on systems that could possibly enslave us further. In true Saturnian fashion, we become stronger by working instead of waiting for someone, no matter how powerful they are, to save the day.